Welcome back. You are listening to the home of forbidden romances. Prepare yourself, because tonight's story will leave you breathless. The contract didn't end with a signature. It ended with the snap of a wrist and the shattering of bone. I watched, paralyzed by a cocktail of horror and arousal, as the man who had threatened to leak my photos to the press crumpled to the floor of the penthouse suite, screaming through a gag of his own blood. Standing over him, adjusting his pristine diamond cufflinks as if he had merely swatted a fly, was Damon. He didn't look at the groaning body. He looked at me. His eyes, usually the color of frozen steel, were burning with a dark, terrifying possessiveness that stripped me naked faster than his hands ever could. "I told you, Julian," Damon said, his voice a low velvet rumble that vibrated in my chest. "No one touches what belongs to the Cross family. No one touches what belongs to me." That was the moment the illusion of brotherhood died, replaced by a predator finally cornering his prey. To understand the cage, you must first understand the bait. I was 7 when Silas Cross plucked me from the grim austerity of the orphanage. I was a scrawny thing, knees always scraped, eyes too big for my face. Silas was a titan of industry, a man who viewed people as assets and liabilities. I was intended to be an asset, a companion and future shield for his biological son, Damon. Damon was 10, a prodigy of cold intellect and terrifying stillness. From day one, the dynamic was set. I was the warmth to his ice, the impulse to his strategy. We grew up in the sprawling, echoey halls of the Cross estate, a modern fortress of glass and marble perched above the city like a watching god. For 20 years, Damon was my protector. When I failed math, Damon hacked the school server. When I got into a brawl at a bar, Damon's lawyers made the other guy disappear into a settlement agreement. When Silas threatened to disown me for my lack of business acumen, Damon stood between us, his silence heavier than his father's shouting. "He stays," Damon had said, simply. And I stayed. I mistook his protection for brotherly duty. I mistook his obsession for loyalty. I was blind, deaf, and dumb to the way his gaze lingered on my neck when I shaved, or how he decimated anyone who looked at me for too long. Then came Elena. Elena Vane was the daughter of Marcus Vane, the Cross Empire's only legitimate rival in the tech sector. She was everything I wasn't, soft, radiant, and uncomplicated. I met her at a charity gala, a boring affair of champagne and fake smiles. We bonded over our mutual hatred of caviar and our tyrannical fathers. I started dating her in secret. It was a rebellion, a desperate clawing for a life outside the suffocating shadow of the Cross legacy. For 3 months, I felt normal. I felt free. I should have known that in Damon's world, freedom is just another word for treason. The unraveling began on a rainy Tuesday. I had been summoned to the main study. The air in the room was thick enough to choke on, smelling of aged leather and ozone. Silas sat behind his desk, looking like a judge presiding over an execution. Damon stood by the window, staring out at the storm, his back to me. "Julian," Silas said, his voice devoid of affection. "We have a situation." He tossed a manila folder across the mahogany surface. It slid to a stop in front of me. I opened it, my hands trembling slightly. Inside were photos. Me and Elena at a cafe. Me kissing Elena in the park. Me leaving her apartment at 3 a.m. My blood ran cold. "Dad, I can explain. You are sleeping with the enemy," Silas stated. "Marcus Vane is preparing a hostile takeover of our logistics division. And you are frolicking with his spy." "She's not a spy," I shouted, the defense automatic. "She hates her father's business as much as I hate." I cut myself off, glancing at Damon's back. He hadn't moved. The tension radiating off him was nuclear. "Damon," I pleaded, turning to my foster brother, my shield. "Tell him. You know I wouldn't betray the family. It's just, I like her." Damon turned slowly. The look on his face stopped my heart. It wasn't anger. It was a look of profound, terrifying disappointment, mixed with a hunger so raw it felt like a physical blow. "You like her?" Damon repeated, the words tasting like ash in his mouth. "Yes." I lied, or perhaps I told the truth. I didn't know anymore. "I think I love her." The silence that followed was deafening. Damon walked over to the desk, his movements fluid and predatory. He picked up one of the photos, a shot of me smiling at Elena, and tore it in half. The Vane family will be bankrupt by morning, Damon said, his voice devoid of emotion. Marcus Vane has been embezzling funds. I have the proof. I've had it for months. I was waiting for the right moment. He looked at me then. The moment is now. No, I gasped. Damon, you can't. If you destroy her father, she'll hate me. It will destroy us. That, Damon said, stepping into my personal space, towering over me, is the point. I grabbed his lapels, shaking him. Why? Why are you doing this? You've always had my back. Why can't you let me be happy? Damon's hand shot out, gripping my jaw, forcing me to look up at him. His fingers were bruising, his thumb pressing against my pulse. Because you are compromised, he hissed. You are weak. And you are mine. I shoved him away, stumbling back. I am not yours. I am your brother. Foster brother, he corrected, the distinction sharp as a scalpel. I fled the study. I drove to Elena's, but it was too late. Police cruisers surrounded her building. Her father was being let out in handcuffs. I saw her in the window, weeping. When she saw my car, her face twisted into a mask of betrayal. She knew. She knew I was a cross, and she thought I was part of the hit. My phone buzzed. A text from Damon. Asterisk, come home, Julian. Before I make it worse. Asterisk, I didn't go home. I went to a bar. I drank until the neon lights blurred into streaks of demon fire. I found a dealer in the back alley, looking for something, anything, to numb the guilt. That's when the thugs found me. Low-level enforcers looking for a payout from the rich kid. That led to the hotel room. To the blackmail attempt. And to Damon kicking the door off its hinges and breaking a man's arm like it was dry kindling. Which brings us back to the penthouse. The intruder was unconscious, dragged away by Damon's personal security team. We were alone. The adrenaline was fading, replaced by a cold, creeping dread. You had him followed, I whispered, backing away until my legs hit the edge of the sprawling velvet sofa. You had me followed. Damon unbuttoned his jacket, tossing it onto a chair. He loosened his tie, his chest heaving slightly. It was the only sign that he was affected by the violence he'd just inflicted. I have eyes on you every second of every day, Julian. Did you really think you could hide anything from me? You ruined her life, I accused, tears pricking my eyes. Elena, you destroyed her family because I dated her. I destroyed a competitor, Damon countered smoothly, stalking toward me. The fact that it severed your little tryst was a bonus. Why? I screamed, the sound raw in the quiet room. Why do you care so much? Is it control? Do you just need to control every single thing in your orbit? Damon stopped inches from me. He reached out, tracing the line of my jaw where he had grabbed me earlier. His touch was electric, burning through my skin. Do you know what I told Silas? He asked, his voice dropping to a whisper. About what? About why I refused the marriage arrangement he set up for me with the heiress of the Chin Group. About why I haven't looked at a woman in 10 years. My breath hitched. What are you talking about? Damon leaned in, his lips brushing against my ear. I told him the truth. I told him that his heir has a specific proclivity. He pulled back to look me in the eyes. Dad knows I like guys, Julian. The world tilted. The sentence hung in the air, rearranging the past 20 years of my life. Every glance, every act of protection, every time he sabotaged a girlfriend I brought home. It wasn't brotherly overreach. It wasn't business strategy. I stammered. He was furious, of course, Damon continued, his hand sliding down to rest over my heart, feeling it hammer against my ribs. He threatened to disinherit me, to throw you out. He blamed you for corrupting me. I know, Damon interrupted. You're innocent. Oblivious. But I told him, if he touched you, if he sent you away, I would burn the company to the ground. I told him that my compliance, my genius, my future as CEO, the price was you. I couldn't breathe. You bought me. I secured you, he corrected. The Vane family was a threat not because of business, Julian, but because Elena was taking you away. And I spent too much capital keeping you to let some mediocrity steal my investment. I'm not an asset, I shouted, shoving his chest. He didn't budge. He was a wall of muscle and resolve. Aren't you? Damon grabbed my wrists, pinning them behind my back with one hand, pulling me flush against him. The heat of his body was overwhelming. I could smell the metallic tang of blood on him, mixed with his expensive cologne, sandalwood, and cold rain. Who pays your debts? Who covers your mistakes? Who kills for you? That's sick. I spat, though my resistance was melting under the sheer intensity of his gaze. We're brothers. We share no blood, he growled. And looking at you now, seeing the fear and the heat in your eyes, I don't feel like a brother. He kissed me. It wasn't a tentative exploration. It was a claiming. His lips were hard, demanding, punishing. He kissed me like he wanted to devour my soul, to breathe for me. I tried to pull away, to fight the sudden, traitorous surge of desire that flooded my veins, but he was too strong. Or maybe I was too weak. His tongue swept into my mouth, tasting the whiskey and the shock. My knees buckled. Damon caught me, his arms sweeping under my legs to lift me effortlessly. He carried me toward the bedroom, not breaking the kiss. Damon, stop. I gasped when he finally let me up for air, dumping me onto the silk sheets of the king-sized bed. We can't do this. Silas knows, Damon said, looming over me, unbuckling his belt. The sound of leather sliding through metal was louder than a gunshot. Why do you think he let me destroy Vane? He accepted the deal. He gets the empire. I get you. I never agreed to this deal. You signed it the day you walked into my house, Damon said, crawling over me, caging me with his arms. His eyes were dark voids, swirling with 20 years of repressed hunger. You signed it every time you let me save you. Every time you cried on my shoulder. You are mine, Julian. Body, heart, and soul. I hate you. I whispered, tears leaking from my eyes. But my hands were already clutching his shirt, pulling him down. Good, Damon murmured, burying his face in my neck, his teeth grazing the sensitive skin over my pulse. Hate is passionate. I can work with hate. As long as you don't look at anyone else ever again. He bit down, marking me. A sharp pain that bled instantly into pleasure. I arched my back, a broken sound escaping my throat. Say it, Damon commanded, his hand sliding down to unbutton my pants. Tell me you belong to me. I faltered. The image of Elena's crying face flashed in my mind, then dissolved under the weight of Damon's body, the absolute certainty of his touch. He was the monster in the dark, but he was also the only thing that had ever kept the other monsters away. Say it, Julian. I belong to you. I sobbed, the surrender complete. Damon smiled against my skin. It was a terrifying, beautiful thing. Finally, the night that followed was a blur of frantic skin and desperate confessions. He took me apart and put me back together, reshaping me into something that fit only him. There was no tenderness, only an all-consuming intensity that burned away the past. By morning, the rain had stopped. I woke up entangled in his limbs, the heavy curtains drawn against the sun. My body ached in places I didn't know existed. Damon was awake, watching me. His fingers traced the bruise he had left on my neck. The Vane Company filed for bankruptcy an hour ago, he said casually, as if discussing the weather. Marcus Vane is in custody. I closed my eyes. The guilt was there, a dull ache, but it was distant now, muffled by the heavy blanket of Damon's presence. And Elena? I asked quietly. She's leaving the country. I arranged a generous severance package for her, on the condition she never contacts you again. I looked at him. The monster. The savior. My lover. You're insane, I said. Damon leaned in and kissed my forehead, a gesture so tender it was jarring after the violence of the night before. I'm devoted, he corrected. There is a difference. He got out of bed, walking naked to the window to survey his city. His back was scarred, a map of the fights he'd fought, many of them for me. I lay there, watching him, realizing that the cage door had been locked long before I ever knew I was inside. And the terrifying truth was, I didn't want the key. And that is how the viper tamed the wolf, not with chains, but with a love so heavy it crushed everything else in its path. If you enjoyed seeing Damon take absolute control and destroy that like button, do it now. And tell me in the comments, would you forgive a lover who ruined your life just to keep you safe, or is freedom worth more than protection? I'll be reading your answers. Subscribe for the next chapter. Until then,